What's up, everyone? It's been a while. Hope everyone is doing good. I'm slow. I'm slow as crap today. It's been the first slow day. Let me take this out. First slow day I've had in a while. So I got called out to program a new. I had to clone it. A new, used PCM on a 2015 Jeep Patriot. When I got done, it still wouldn't start. So I'm gonna show you what I have found so far. I have not completed the diag. I've barely even started it, actually. So I'm going to show you where I'm at. So I noticed my cam and cranks state is out of sync. I don't know if it stays this way until it starts. I truly don't. So I'm going to try to crank it, and it never goes back to in sync, which threw up a red flag for me. All right. At this point, I wanted to see if I had spark, right? Something like that would inhibit spark occasionally. So I wanted to see if I had spark. We're going to check that out. I have a scope set up already. So I have this on a 200 volt scale. I have an attenuator on my scope so it doesn't get damaged. 10 millisecond division. Now I can't watch this. I hope that wasn't too loud. I'm going to put a little trigger. See that little yellow diamond? I'm going to put that trigger there to see when I crank this, if I have spark at all and how many spark events I do have. I don't know if you can hear that. Cranking it, and I do notice that I don't have any RPM on the tachometer. That was a red flag for me too. Come back out, and I notice that I only have one or two spark events for as many times as I've cranked this over. So I have a feeling maybe the crank reluctor got damaged, potentially, something to that effect. All right, so I got my cam and crank waveform. My cam and crank sync is good, right? So if you drop this down, red, my red, I forget if it's intake or exhaust at this point. It's irrelevant. It is where it should be. But the one thing I did notice is my crank sync is high, right? We are riding at 5 volts on our crank sync. Now I went and got a known good waveform to compare to. All right, so here's my crank sync down here on the known good, and this is low. So I spoke to this shop. They put a aftermarket crank sensor in it, recommending a new crank sensor, and I'm gonna maybe swing back through, call them back, see if it fixes it. But I'm pretty sure just a cheap aftermarket crank sensor damaged this. Hey, before you go to the next video, hang tight. Number one, I have seen other manufacturers with the crank signal waveform flipped upside down when cranking, and it doesn't affect the vehicle. First one that comes to mind is Nissan. Occasionally you'll see a Nissan with a crank signal waveform flipped upside down, and it doesn't affect operation of the vehicle. Now, I knew that this shop put timing chains on here. What I didn't know was that they put a crank sensor on it also. They didn't tell me that up front. Once I went in to talk to them about this crank sensor, they told me that they would replace it. They showed me what they replaced it with, and I realized it was a very inexpensive. It was like a $15 crank sensor. At that point, I determined that it was probably best to replace the crank sensor with an OEM one and do any further testing if needed. But I was fairly certain at that point it was going to fix it. So I called them back this morning, spoke to them about it. They said it fixed it. It was good to go. The OEM crank sensor, they said, was only like 40 bucks. So I hope you all enjoyed the video, maybe learned something, and I'll catch you all next time.